Look at this ugly thing. You could only dream of having a coat like ours.
What would happen if the story of Ugly Duckling was retold as a horror story, where there is no happy ending, and only resentment and vengeance? There is no resolve, and only pain and horror.
No one came looking for me when I disappeared.
Hi folks, I'm R, your narrator, and welcome to the Ugly Duckling analog horror video. This video was suggested to me a while back, and I'm glad that it was, as it's a pretty scary story.
The Ugly Duckling. Created by
477974001.
We should be familiar with the story of the Ugly Duckling already. A baby duckling became an outcast, treated poorly for not fitting in with the societal norms and not blending in with the other ducklings. It is only when it matures, when it becomes the beautiful swan, more beautiful than the ducks, the ones who mistreated it when it was young. And of course they become bewildered and in awe of what they see. The beauty that stands in front of them. The moral of the story is to respect everyone equally, regardless to how they look or who they are, as the ones who were looked down on and seen as failures or losers could very much become wonderful people, overtaking those who disregarded them. In here, we have a horrifying analog horror about the story of the Ugly Duckling, and it already starts with a heavily distorted and encrypted message.
created by
477974001.
The date on the video is 28th of November 1990, which is strangely close to my own birthday, except the year is far off by a few years. The video tells an alternate version of the fairy tale, instead of the duckling being actually a swan, in here being an actual duck amongst pretty little swans. The story seems a lot darker and more tragic than the original fairy tale, as we witness psychological abuse and singling one out, belittlement, gaslighting and much more, which could drive one to the brink of losing themselves and having self-confidence completely shattered and wiped clean.
Once upon a time, by a peaceful lake, a mother swan was laying her eggs. Little did she know, one of her offspring was born different. It was a duckling. Look at this ugly thing, said one of the cygnets, as they peered at their sibling. The mother swan looked at the duckling with disgust. This is not one of my children, she said as she pecked at it, pushing the hatchling away from the nest. You're a freak and you know it. You will never be beautiful. The duckling cried as its family relentlessly shamed it. Day after day, the family would mistreat the duckling, making fun of its appearance. The swans constantly pointed out their differences such as their size or beaks, though they mainly ridiculed the duck's feathers. Your feathers are plain and gross, like dirt. You could only dream of having a coat like ours.
A vile and disgusting creature forever cursed to walk the earth as an ugly moth. You will never. Everybody hates you. Freak, 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 freak.
This all seemed to stem from the mother as a role model, ridiculing and mistreating the duckling, being a bad influence on the other swan chicks who constantly bully and belittle the poor little one. They treat it so badly that the poor duckling starts seeing them as alternate monstrous entities who are there to torment and torture him. They metamorphose into horrifying entities in the perspective of the duckling, who starts shaking and crying, losing itself and starting to stutter just by looking at them. The amount of terror, fear, mistreatment, and psychological torment becomes too much for the poor little duckling to endure it any longer, when one fateful day, the duckling goes missing, nowhere to be seen.
Only dream of having a coat like ours. One day, the duckling disappeared. Good riddance, chirped one of the siblings. That runt was tainting our family.
Some of the little swans start wondering to where it might have gone, but mainly they brush it off as good riddance. Time passes and these little swans grow into mature, graceful and elegant swans. The mother, seeing how wonderfully they turned, informs them that they are wonderful adults who are ready to begin their own lives and start their own families. The mother swan bids them farewell when the adult children set on their way to start looking for mates and partners.
Many suns and many moons passed, and before they knew it, they had all grown into graceful and elegant swans. It has come time for all of you to find a place of your own. I trust that all of you will be able to have a beautiful family like ours, and continue our pure bloodline. Okay, mother, farewell, they squawked, then darted off along the lake.
On the way, one of the swans called Sylvie, who has grown to maturity, understanding more about life now, admits what they did to the little duckling was absolutely horrible and they should have never done that. The duckling was their sibling and they had no right to bully and torment him as such just because he looked a little different. But the other sibling, called Simon, has absolutely no remorse and explains how the duckling was never important, which Sylvie finds very immature of him.
Gliding along the water, the swan siblings reminisced about the past.
It's a shame really,
Said one of the swans.
although he wasn't a looker, it does feel strange that he has left us.
Oh please Sylvie, as if you care what happened to that thing. If you ask me, between his shitty feathers and that weird stare, it's a blessing that he's out of the picture.
Simon, that's horrible. Just because he was a little different, didn't mean we had to be such dicks as kids.
Loosen up Sylvie. Besides, what good does caring do now?
Whatever, Simon, Mom praising your coat has gotten to your head.
It's clear the baby swans were simply young and immature, not knowing any better. They looked up to their bitter and toxic mother, who bullied and disregarded one of her own children, being disgusted at him. The baby swans, knowing nothing better, were influenced and followed the footsteps of the mother, thinking that's how they are supposed to act. But as of now, growing up and being more mature, at least one of them, Sylvie, one of the swans, understands how horrible they were, being actual monsters, tormenting the duckling to the point that he disappeared and possibly ran away. All of a sudden, swimming on the lake to cross it, a dark figure starts kidnapping the swans, with Sylvie being the last one to be abducted in horror.
It's getting dark. Where is everyone?
Many years go by, with the mother swan never getting visited by her children, being alone, who starts getting worried and disappointed to why they are not visiting her at all. That is when she sets sail herself on this lake, taking the same route to hopefully find them.
It is awfully quiet here, thought Mother Swan, as she passed the reeds of what she assumed would shelter her offspring. She found it odd, now to think of it, that she hadn't heard from her kids after all these years. Turning the bend, she hopped out of the water and made her way to the barn. Simon said he was going to move here, she pondered. I wonder if he's finally got some hatchlings of his own.
Getting off the water, she reaches a barn, assuming that Simon would be settling here and would have wonderful children of his own, as his plan was always to settle in a barn by the lake. The mother swan, believing Simon must be there, invites herself in, looking for her beautiful son, Simon. When entering the barn, the mother swan, hopeful to see her beautiful grown children, is horrified to find something completely different, something that she would never imagine in her worst nightmares. A grisly scene of all the swans being dead, with their corpses lying on the floor, their feathers plucked, being mutilated and desecrated. That's when she notices a pair of piercing eyes looking at her deep from the shadows.
Approaching the barn house, Mother Swan called out, "Simon, Mother is home." There was silence. The door was left ajar. "Simon, come on darling, I want to see how my beautiful boy has." I am done.
Every day I woke up, and every day I was reminded that I am inadequate. You're a freak, an ugly freak. Your feathers, your big. Good luck trying to keep your perfect family. It will be hard to continue your pure bloodline if everyone is dead. You want to know what I've done? I think you know. I have become beautiful. No one came looking for me when I disappeared. And now, no one will come looking for you.
It's clear the years of psychological torture left the poor little duckling with a lot of trauma and resentment. He was bullied and belittled every day, called a freak and a monster, who eventually became one. Became what they called him and perceived him as. He was made to feel inadequate and like a no-good plain entity who uses the beautiful features of the sibling swans to shape himself into a creature that they portrayed as beautiful, something they said that he lacked. He showed exactly what they pushed him to be, a monster who lacked all these features and took the features they cherished so much and bullied him for lacking. So what's the moral of the story here? Well, be nice to people, or the analog horror monstrous grown duckling will come with vengeance. But of course this video has a lot of similarities to real life and real trauma and psychological torment a lot of people can face, and many probably can relate. Is what little duckling did to his siblings justified though? That is the question. He effectively took their lives for being psychologically tormented and belittled in a way that his personality and self-worth was stolen from him. Throughout his childhood, the very people who were supposed to protect him, uplift him and support him turned to be his worst enemies. They all banded together and picked on him every single day. It became so terrible that poor little duckling started to see them as nightmarish ghouls or monsters who would eat his soul and destroy him as an individual. The mother, who is supposed to be the pillar for growth, was the hammer, hitting him down lower and lower to the ground, being ashamed and disgusted at him. Even at the very end, being so psychologically manipulated and made to feel hate for himself, he didn't seem to even want to punish the swans, but as if he lacked value in himself and desperately wanted to look like them, hence why he plucked their feathers, putting them on himself to look like them. It seems as if he badly needed validation and support. He wanted the mother to listen to him, see him as an individual, but unfortunately, he did something so horrible, all due to his mind being broken by the family that was supposed to help and protect him.
Created by
477974001.
Unfortunately, he was so badly treated that his mind was only filled with inadequacies, resentment, anxiety, horror, trauma, and that's how he could only project and reflect them.
You could only dream of having a code like ours.
In the scene where he snatches the swans, we can see a pair of human hands coming out. It's not clear if they are canon and belong to him, or if they are symbolic. We can even see the pair of hands in the final scene when the duckling attacks the mother swan. So it's a little strange to how he obtains these hands if they are real and not just symbolic for the story and the horror factor. Also, one swan that did show remorse, not knowing any better as a child, just being influenced by the crowd, was Sylvie, who got the same treatment like the other swans. She did feel bad for the sibling and was wondering how it is and where it went, feeling bad for how they treated him, and that she shows that she is worried about him, hoping that he is alright.
It's a shame really.
Said one of the swans.
Although he wasn't a looker, it does feel strange that he has left us. Simon, that's horrible. Just because he was a little different didn't mean we had to be such dicks as kids.
What do you guys think? Was the duckling's actions justified at the end, and did all the swans deserve this treatment, especially someone like Sylvie who showed remorse? Let me know what are your thoughts down in the comments below, and if they deserved what they got. As always, thanks for being here. It's been your host Dar, and I will see you on the next one. Have a fantastic day.